There's nothing to defend. They kill innocent people. There's nothing to defend. A lot of Palestinians don't defend them either. They hate them because they can kill innocent kids.
The question is this, right? The question I would present to you is this. Do you think that the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was a condemnable act by...
that wasn't an attack on civilians. He just asked you about civilians, you fucking charlatan piece of shit. You fucking prick. Like, they asked you about civilians. What civilians did they target in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising? None, but they went after the fucking... They were fine with the SS and the police officers. Nazi police officers, bro.
The situations are the same. No,
because
they're not the same. At that point, the Holocaust had not been completely implemented.
Oh, but
what do you mean completely? It was already being. Oh, I love that. Completely, it was being implemented. I'm gonna watch Hasan Piker on LBC. Fuck me. This is a 53-minute interview. Okay, that's a lengthy one. Okay.
Well, Hasan Piker,
I know people are talking about this and saying I should watch it because it's good and all that. My guess is that what's happening here is that this is, well, first of all, it's quite long, but also it's a British interview, which means he's going to get asked marginally challenging questions, and it's going to make him really uncomfortable. That's probably why everyone's hyped up about this video, but we'll see.
Thank you so much for joining us. We had booked this and hoped that it would be in person, but instead you're joining us, I think, from LA for reasons we can get into. We will get into it in full, but it must have been a little bit of a curious week for you in terms of your relationship with the UK.
Yeah, I mean, I still got much love for the UK, and I feel bad for all of my friends out there fighting the good fight. But yeah, I was definitely not expecting the Labour government to be the government that bars my entry into the country, especially considering that I've been to the UK on numerous occasions, both under Keir Starmer's rule, but certainly under Tory leadership for the past decade or so, unimpeded. And I've delivered numerous speeches inside of the United Kingdom until this very last incursion, I guess.
But it's the case, isn't it, that you're still planning to, or the Oxford Union, which is one of the events that you were coming to address or coming to undertake, that's still going to go ahead?
Oxford Union actually defended both myself and Cenk Uygur, my uncle, and wanted to continue putting on the event as an act of defiance, I guess, in violation of the spirit of this travel ban.
So your understanding is that you are basically prohibited from coming to the UK.
The way he's talking just sounds so like manufactured. It's very odd to me.
Future? Have you actually had any communication from the Home Office?
No, the only communication I've gotten from the Home Office is the revocation of my ETA.
Yep.
And they told me that it's not something that I can oppose, and that if I would like to travel to the UK, I have to get a different visa, that I have to apply for like an actual visa. Given how close this was to the actual travel date, the suggestion was pretty clear. They just did not want me to attend the events that I was supposed to attend inside of the United Kingdom, especially considering...
It would have cost them about £1,000 to get a 24-hour visa application. I think that's how much it costs. One shirt. You could have spent one shirt if he felt like he was flagged unfairly or some shit, then maybe more context can be provided to his opinions or whatever, or to his conduct in the UK, but yeah. Whatever.
When I understand that the visa process for all these other visas, which is totally unique for an American citizen, by the way, because our countries are supposed to have a special relationship, which implies that as an American citizen, visa-free travel was the norm into the UK for the longest time, and the visa on arrival is the way that things go nowadays. I had taken the precaution to get the ETA ahead of time just to make sure that there were no issues. And the fact that they revoked it so close to travel implies that they just wanted to not allow me in. And also, they told me I can still apply for a different type of visa.
Got it ahead of time? What, like? But you don't apply for an ETA when you're supposed to apply for an ETA in advance. But it's a new system, so. Huh.
But no guarantees there.
We'll return to that because I want to talk a bit more broadly about politics, but about American politics and UK politics as well, because you've got a lot of insight and a lot of interesting things to say. I mean, I suppose just on it though.
Let's go.
Actually, funnily enough, even though your prohibition into the UK has received a lot of attention here. In terms of kind of the question of borders and of people getting into one country or another, in the UK at the moment, a lot of the discourse, I think in a lot of European politics as well, is the idea of actually with the World Cup coming up, that lots and lots of Brits or Europeans, particularly those who might have said critical things about the Trump administration, might not be allowed into the US. Now, as a journalist who regularly goes into the US and has had a few things to say in my time about the Trump administration, I have to say I've never encountered this myself, but this is a sort of peculiar time, isn't it, when we've got European countries and American countries, two very close sets of allies sort of across two continents, talking about whether or not we're going to let our citizens mutually in to each other's territories. Yeah,
it's absolute bedlam. There is no more coalition, or rather, the coalition of forces that are taking shape right now are some of the most dangerous and most odious types of politics that I've ever experienced in my lifetime. You have the MAGA movement, which by my estimation is almost turning into this behemoth of an international fascist movement, really, that has close associations with both reform in your country and also Restore Britain as well. And there's this weird allegiance where we're becoming more toxic against one another, and the age of international rule-based order is seemingly being cast aside. I find it to be very dangerous.
You don't like international rule-based order. You're like a multipolarity guy. Why would you? Okay.
I find it to be very worrisome. I don't think it's just about being able to enter the United States to go watch your favorite football team defeat the Americans or whatever. There are far greater consequences, I think, later down the line. But it has been interesting to see the universal condemnation of this act from places that I never thought would actually defend me. Pro-Israel outlets such as the Free Press or even The Economist and the Washington Post editorial board have all collectively panned the British government's decisions. But then there's also
that is in part as well because it's mostly right-wingers who get their ETAs revoked for these reasons, for public good reasons. It's usually right-wingers, and it's a Labour government. It's a Labour government that supports that supports the Palestinian state, that recognizes the Palestinian state, and that is not very nice to Israel. It's not very cooperative with Israel. So yeah, no wonder the Free Press would have a bone to pick with them.
Right-wingers who actually celebrated it, and I
you
find
can have international rule-based order and multipolarity. It's not mutually exclusive. Yeah, well done, fucking retard. Hasan doesn't like the liberal rules-based order. That's why. If you're multipolar because you do not like the liberal international rule-based order, then you don't like the international rule-based order. What?
That very odd as well, because they're probably coming to the United States of America to watch their national teams play.
Ben Gvir isn't banned from the UK. Yes, and Smotrich. Yeah.
And what if their travel is impeded in the same process?
It's interesting, just to take you back to that phrase you just used. You think that there is an international fascistic organization that's forming, and you would elide the MAGA movement and reform and restore. And restore is an interesting one because, of course, I think a lot of listeners and viewers to this show might be surprised that restore is even known in the United States. Surprised it's even known across the UK. But I was in CPAC in Dallas not long ago, and actually I was taken aback, actually stunned, by the number of people who knew who Restore were, who knew who Rupert Lowe, the MP for Great Yarmouth, who on paper would be quite an obscure figure in the United States.
Yarmouth.
But actually, no, he's very well known.
Yeah, and part of the reason
he's known amongst people who are political because J.D. Vance goes to Europe and shouts out every single fucking far-right retard fascist party they can get a hold of. Like, yeah, he supports the ones in Hungary and fucking Greece, Spain, Italy, France, Germany. Like, he supports all these right-wing parties. Supports fucking AFD, Le Pen, and Farage, Reform, and Elon Musk supports Restore on Twitter. So they're not going to be known by the average American, though.
Reason is because I think we live in the age of the internet, and like I said, there is an international component amongst far-right elements in European society, certainly, or even South Korean society, as a matter of fact. I mean, Charlie Kirk, before he was assassinated, had traveled to Japan and South Korea and through these massive events with the South Korean far-right, and they were all wearing MAGA hats. I find that both fascinating and also terrifying at the same time, that there is this amalgamation of right-wing forces that are not necessarily adjusted to their own local considerations and their own local problems, but instead they get their notes from MAGA and they wear MAGA merch, which I find very strange. I feel like it's not even a principled version of nationalism.
They should be with the local Communist Party, right? 100%.
That you would expect from these old school fascists. It's very interesting to observe.
What do you make of, as someone who has probably been thinking about British politics a little bit more than you might have otherwise been, when you see where we are in British politics, you see Nigel Farage, you talk about Rupert Lowe and Restore, what do you make of where British politics is at the moment, and particularly in relation to US politics? Do you see US politics
Utter
as
devastation.
Devastation? Why do you think devastation?
Utter devastation. One of the early warnings that, it's not a secret that I was a big fan and big supporter of Jeremy Corbyn. Indeed. And still am now a friend to Jeremy Corbyn as well. Honored to know him.
And he's defended you this week.
Yeah, he has, and so has Zach Polanski. I've collaborated with Zach as well at times. So what I will say is, since the Corbyn ouster, it was very clear that Labour was headed down a very dangerous path, going back to Blairite versions of the party, if not far worse, right-wing elements in the party overtaking the entirety of Labour. And
based on what? Based on what is Keir Starmer far more right-wing than Tony Blair?
One of the warnings that I delivered on the night of the election, after Keir Starmer won, with less votes than Jeremy Corbyn had, ironically enough, was that if the Labour government continues
the way this guy does this propaganda is so fucking, it's so irritating. Like, remember, this is like a whole thing about stats, like just using stats to, whatever the quote is about how fucking stats don't lie, but liars use stats, or whatever the fuck. Like, a general election depends on who performs the best out of all the major parties. So using the fact that Corbyn got more votes in a time when people were much more politically engaged and when voter apathy was just not the same as what it became in the last election, Corbyn had the biggest defeat of the Labour Party since 1935. In 2019, Corbyn's defeat was the biggest Labour had since 1935. And Keir Starmer currently has the largest majority in Parliament since 1832 or something. So, yeah, like the framing of these stats is like really annoying. Like the fact is that Corbyn had a really, really strong opportunity in 2017 to defeat Theresa May. He did get rid of her majority successfully, but it wasn't enough because those ideas that Corbyn had just were not enough to win an election in the UK. And there's no indication that they're going to be anytime soon because the United Kingdom and the rest of Europe and America has actually moved further right since then, and on the whole.
Line of austerity and refuses to address some of the economic hardships that people are experiencing, that has caused a lot of the former Labour strongholds to turn into areas captive by reform, and first the Tories and now even reform. I was worried that far-right elements were going to overtake British politics, and they certainly did. As a matter of fact, the Green Party's surge has only been the last saving grace of British politics to a certain degree, considering that I think in the absence of this Green Party resurgence, Labour would be eviscerated, and then you would have an eclectic group of, I guess, independent MPs and maybe your party as well, to a certain degree, try to put a strong opposition against this behemoth that the Reform Party has become.
Are you talking to Polanski much? Are you advising Polanski?
But remember, Polanski and your party don't want to work with Labour, even if the Greens and Labour could combine to keep the Tories out. They don't want to do that.
Advising him, but I chat with him every now and then.
He's particularly in the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's receiving, as you might imagine, ferocious media attention, and a lot of the newspapers are coming for him in a very big way, and they've found some things that are embarrassing to him, and so on. Some of which he's acknowledged. What would you say to him as someone who has been very, very successful in corralling the power of digital media on the left? What would you say to him about how to deal with the traditional media?
Be bold, be brave. Don't be afraid to be contentious at times. Yeah. Stay on message always. I think one of the things that...
Stop yapping about how you can use hypnotherapy to enlarge people's breasts. True.
Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, did so expertly in spite of the barrage of attacks and heinous smears that he was receiving, not dissimilar to what Zach Polanski is currently going through, was he would always play this intellectual...
What smears? Oh, I think people like Hasan dismiss the breast enlargement thing as smears. They're not, by the way. He literally did say that. He defended the idea that hypnotherapy could enlarge people's fucking breasts. And he also does have to square with the fact that in the last general election and up until today, there is a very alarming number of Green candidates who are like openly supportive of fucking Hamas, which is just like so bizarre. Why would you allow that to be a thing? I know logically it doesn't make any sense. I can see why ideologically it does because of the whole populist fucking capture, but
judo, where he would consistently reframe the conversation back to, and dare I say, expertly back to a key policy of his platform. I think this was a major issue with Jeremy Corbyn. The anti-Semitism smears were unfounded and totally ridiculous. However, it wasn't necessarily
they were unfounded against Corbyn himself, but within the party they were not unfounded. There was a rise of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party under Corbyn. Like any investigation that was that was conducted into that issue found as much.
Yeah, that the broader British public found Jeremy Corbyn's politics to be odious, and that he was a sincere anti-Semite. There was a little bit of hysteria there for sure, but it was the fact that he constantly found himself addressing these accusations, because we have a finite amount of time on every broadcast, especially when a politician is running for office. And if you utilize that time consistently on the defense, consistently having to answer accusations that people have made about you without actually addressing what your platform is, or even why people might be very upset at you, because oftentimes it's not the smear itself that is valid, then people are only going to remember you as an unserious person that is constantly in controversy.
Is that completely fair, Hasan Piker? I mean, remember that the Equality and Human Rights Commission in this country conducted an investigation into anti-Semitism into the Labour Party, and it concluded that Jeremy Corbyn, when he had led it, had committed unlawful acts related to anti-Semitism. Key findings included Labour was responsible for unlawful harassment, discrimination, there were serious failings of leadership, and inadequate process for handling anti-Semitism complaints. Two things can be true at once. It can be true to say that people who perhaps had ulterior motives decided that they wanted to use some of this to try and undermine Jeremy Corbyn, but it can also be true to say that Jeremy Corbyn led the Labour Party during a period when it did things that it shouldn't, and it didn't do other things that it should have done with regards to anti-Semitism.
Well, this ironically also dovetails back into
this report that I've never read. Yes, I've got plenty to say about that.
Excuse
me while I completely segue this conversation into something that I'm more comfortable talking about.
Travel ban as well. But I think if what happened to Jeremy Corbyn was taking place right now in 2026 with the current understanding of the actions of Israel, or the ideology of Zionism, or the history of the development of the Israeli state, I believe that these attacks would not have been anywhere near as successful. Because what we consider to be
if everyone understood how fucking evil and Nazi-esque Israel is, then they would have understood the Jewish Labour Party members and staffers and fucking canvassers and door knockers were getting like harassed by people grilling them on their opinions on fucking Israel. Like if someone had like a Star of David necklace, like getting fucking attacked by some boomer Marxist, like that. This is the kind of shit that was happening with the Labour Party at the time. There was a few MPs actually who were not even particularly like crazy about Israel, who were like hounded out of the fucking party because of this. Like, come on. Ken Livingstone as well, bro. Ken Livingstone was saying he was saying crazy fucking shit at this time when Corbyn was leader. What was, hang on. Oh yeah, there was this, Ken Livingstone was liking, he was boosting social media posts from a guy, Naz Shah, who was suggesting that Israel should be moved to the United States, as in like the Israelis should be moved to and Ken Livingstone insisting that like Zionists actually like collaborated at length with Nazis. Not he misunderstood whatever happened with the Stern Gang thing. Like it's so fucking crazy.
Anti-Semitism, which I find to be morally repugnant, let's just make that clear, and completely unacceptable, as does Jeremy Corbyn, in the conversations that I've had with him at least, was oftentimes matched up with criticisms of Israel, or even a defense, or even analysis conducted on why certain militancies exist in opposition to Israel. Prescribed terrorist organizations such as Hezbollah.
Oh, if only people did more analysis on why there are militancies against Israel. I don't know, bro. Why are Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and all those people still, why are the Houthis, why are they still firing away at, why are they still firing away at Israel, I wonder? Is it to stop human rights issues? Is it to stop human rights abuses? So that seems to be working quite well. What?
Or prescribed terrorist organizations such as Hamas. But any kind of mention or any kind of conversation with these prescribed terrorist organizations was...
Isn't that Shah Labour MP? Yeah, well, he was. I don't know if he still is, but yeah. But it's interesting because even after Naz Shah apologized for the comments, Ken was still in denial. Kemp was still defending them.
Deemed.
I mean, no one would doubt that there is tremendous anger, and many people would say absolutely rightful and righteous anger towards the actions of the government of Israel under Benjamin Netanyahu. Would you also accept, though, that sometimes, and perhaps this happens under Jeremy Corbyn, and perhaps you yourself at times have been guilty of this, that sometimes that fury, which again many people might think is rightful or righteous against Zionism, and in particular the type of Zionism that is prosecuted by the Netanyahu government.
No, it's all the same. It's all the same, buddy.
Has spilt over into anti-Semitism, and that it is best to, and it is right to sometimes acknowledge that fact and be honest about that fact.
Oh, absolutely. And I do acknowledge that. And I suspect Jeremy Corbyn at times has also acknowledged instances where it does go too far.
Well, he's never ever said, to my knowledge, he's never ever said that anything he has done or said has been anti-Semitic.
I don't think Jeremy Corbyn has been personally anti-Semitic. We can go through the report if you would like, and I can maybe make a better assessment of some of his actions.
Do you think that you've ever said anything or done anything which could, in the cold light of day, be reasonably...
Really? Wait, Hasan hasn't read this report. I don't know why he's pretending to have read it. Is he just looking for examples so he can just like... Was he expecting to get read out an example from the report to just... on the spot, weasel his way into saying why it was okay?
Interpreted as anti-Semitism?
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, I'll give you an example personally. One of the things that I routinely deploy, one of the pejoratives that I routinely deploy is inbred. And I use that against vulgar ethno-nationalism, vulgar fascism of all different sorts, because nationalism and fascism in general revolves around ethnic purity or religious purity or some kind of racial purity, right? I think we agree. White nationalists, Christian fascists, phalangists, numerous different sorts, right? And
not Hamas though, not Hezbollah, not the Islamic Republic of Iran. No, definitely not that.
One of the things that they always bring up that I also personally identify as like something that could be misconstrued as me being anti-Semitic is when I called settlers in the West Bank inbred. I said these inbred settlers, and that was...
I think you compared them to the KKK as well, is that right?
Oh, no, but I don't think
go.
that's anti-Semitic.
No, I'm not saying that's anti-Semitic, but I think I'm just giving the full context.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. I've compared them to neo-Nazis. I mean, Itzma Yehudit is Itamar Ben-Gvir's party. It's literally called the Jewish Power Party. It's not like they're hiding that they have fascistic...
But do you think it might ever be better sometimes just to never compare any Jews to Nazis? It might just be wise to do that.
No, I don't. I'm not so precious about that comparison. And I've actually had...
But maybe that's easy for you to say
debates.
as a non-Jewish person.
Oh, for sure.
Oh god, the fucking id poll argument here is so fucking retarded. It's not the reason that it's stupid that it's offensive or that it's potentially bigoted to compare Israelis to Nazis. It's not because it's offensive to Jews. It's not. That's not why you. It's because it's offensive to Jews and it's also inaccurate. Like it's a useless comparison. The motivations of the state of Israel and of Zionism are so different in origin and qualitatively to the Nazis' intentions and to their ideological desires and their foundations, that you're not achieving anything by making that comparison, other than that you are getting under the skin of Jews. But it's bad because of the inaccuracy. Also, yeah, especially when Hasan had an issue with people comparing Putin to Hitler, because Putin actually does have a lot more in common with Hitler. He's a European fascist leader who did actually invade a country that had not threatened Russia, that had not attacked Russia, and tried to occupy as much of that country as they could with the stated goal of reuniting blood and soil, like reuniting the Russian blood of Ukrainians with the Russian soil, as in like the same rationale as the Anschluss. And that's why Crimea was seen as very similar to the Anschluss, because like the whole holding a referendum at gunpoint and having like in the Nazis' case, it was like a very big circle for the fucking in favor of German annexation. Whereas in the Russian situation, it was like two answers which both effectively said yes. One was just with some caveats to Crimea leaving Ukraine.
I mean, you can call them lots of things, Hasan. I'm just sort of trying to be as sort of generous as possible. But you could. There are so many things you could call those settlers. I'm not defending those settlers for a moment. I think a lot of them are committing heinous acts. I think a lot of the people in the far right of the Netanyahu government are absolutely appalling. I would say that completely explicitly. But you know what? You could probably say all that, and you could probably make a stronger case and not undermine yourself by comparing them to Nazis, because Nazis literally tried to exterminate who they are as Jews.
Yes, I don't disagree with that. The comparison.
So why'd you do it?
Because I don't want to see the same crimes repeated against the Palestinians.
The comparison, in my opinion, is not only graphic, but it's apt. because Nazism is a fascist ideology. It's a dangerous fascist
call them
ideology
fascists
that
then.
led to-
Call them fascists. You don't need to call them Nazis or
I do that as
neo-Nazis.
well. But the reason why I specifically utilize deploy the term Nazi is because, well, two reasons. Number one, the goals of ethnic cleansing are identical, and especially considering that a genocide has unfolded at this point, a modern day genocide with different
They're
tools.
not identical, like not even close. I don't recall that many Nazis for decades having this this journey of talking about coexistence with Jews and of equality with Jews before the conflict escalated, and then deciding that their reasoning for not wanting Jews in Germany was because of the Jewish attacks against them, or because they felt like Jewish leadership was literally supporting a genocide against them, which actually was the case with Palestinians. Like, this is why, unfortunately, like, the Palestinians were always cursed with the worst fucking leaders you can get. Like, the reason the Zionists didn't want Palestinians in their land from the 48 war onwards, or even from the 30s onwards, was because the leaders of the Palestinians were led by a guy who supported Hitler. Like, it's so different. It's such a stupid fucking comparison. It's just crazy. It's crazy. The Jews couldn't have done anything to stop Nazis from hating them. They could have done nothing. They were not attacking Germany. They weren't threatening Germany. They weren't trying to cut off pieces of Germany. They weren't calling Germans like fucking unwelcome occupiers who should all go back to, I don't know, wherever they, somewhere else in the world. Like, dude.
It's not the same exact type of genocide as the Holocaust, of course, not the concentration camps, and yet it's an open-air prison that has been bombarded with...
So it actually is a concentration camp. It's just, okay.
Almost 10 atom bombs worth of explosive ordnance that my government, and as a matter of fact, your government has aided and abetted in the process of. And from that perspective, the reason why I say I'm not so precious about this, while always maintaining the position that anti-Semitism is completely unacceptable, I always say I'm not precious about this because at the end of the day, it's a genocide. At the end of the day, it's an apartheid state, and Zionism as an ideology is a racist ideology. And many Jewish thinkers are now also coming to terms with that, even if they had self-identified as Zionists their entire lives. This transformation.
So you would compare what's happened in Gaza to the Holocaust? It's
not to the same extent, no. But I have compared it to the Holocaust. Yes.
It's not even fucking close. That's the point. It's not even. It's not. It's not even close. It's so. Even like particular like. Even one location, remember, like the Warsaw Ghetto they always talk about, that was one place where the population was cut by 90+% within the space of like 2 or 3 years. That's just one area that they compare Gaza to. Be the equivalent of like 1.8 or 1.9 million people dead in Gaza right now. But what can you do, eh?
It's no different than saying these concentration camps that we have in the United States of America are turning into death camps. Fascism is not a static concept. It's an ideology. It's a very dangerous one.
Like the only reason you can try to make a comparison like this is if you just don't think the Holocaust was as bad as it was, which is really weird. That's probably why people get offended by it. So you're doing one thing or the other. You're either over-exaggerating what's happening in places like Gaza or even the United States, I guess, with what you just said there, or you are downplaying the Holocaust, or both. I don't know.
Unconditionally across the board.
But it's not the Holocaust, is it, Hassan? It's not the Holocaust.
No, of course.
And to compare it to, I think the thing about you is you speak compellingly about many things, but you undermine your case and you open yourself to the accusation, which might not be unreasonable, of anti-Semitism by making these comparisons between what the Israeli government is doing, and let's be honest, Jews and Nazis and things they did in the Holocaust, because however heinous we might find what has happened in Gaza, and many of my listeners and viewers would, it is still not the same as the mass extermination and the ritualistic extermination of people which happened on a daily basis during the Holocaust. So why compare the two things?
Because it's going to be. They're just doing it in slow motion, okay? We just need to stop it before it actually...
wanted to get to the Holocaust, and this is the best part of this conversation.
I need a fucking bingo card. It's so fucking predictable. I'm actually glad that this guy is wearing suits now, because for some reason, like, I think the suit just like it makes the contrast much more appropriate for me. Like he just looks like even more of a clown, like saying all this fucking retarded shit, but in a suit. Like, yeah, I don't know. It works for me. It just makes the stupidity even louder.
Because Holocaust studies are profoundly important. But they're not profoundly important so that we can understand what took place and then assume that it's never going to happen again. The entire point of genocide scholarship and specifically scholarship surrounding the Holocaust is so that we understand exactly how a society can move in that direction, and how so many otherwise kind people, I assume, can turn a blind eye to the atrocities that are unfolding, so that we understand what took place and never allow it to happen again.
Yeah, we understand that what happens. We understand that what happens is that a group doesn't attack you. They don't threaten your life. They're not like a military presence anywhere, really. They're not committing shitloads of crime in your country or anything else. They're not doing any of that. And you happen to have a very antiquated and modernized antiquated hatred of them. And you blame them for your failed imperialist war in 1914 to 1918. And you also have this, in parallel, a desire for total fucking racial control over an entire continent. And that also happens to contain a group of people that you have a profound like ethnic and racial biological hatred of, who you believe are literally subhuman, like worse than fucking rodents. That's like the Nazis, okay? Even like some of the most right-wing Israelis, even the people like Netanyahu, like the Likud voters, maybe people like Ben Gvir and Smotrich are a bit different, but like, again, they don't account for more than 10, 11, 12% of the Israeli vote. For the Likud voters, like their rationale is not that they think Arabs are like some kind of like biologically lesser racial being. Their rationale typically is that they believe that the only way Israel can stop themselves from being attacked by these militant groups is just by showing more and more and more and more and more strength. That's it. Like that's kind of this. That's how they approach it. He's just doing such a disservice to like every single angle of this movement as well, because like if you don't know Israelis and you don't know your enemy, like you're not going to achieve anything either. If you think they're literally like Nazis, then how do you deal with Nazis? You kill them, like you decapitate their leadership and you take over their country. You DP their country from two fucking sides, and you get all the world's forces together that have any interest, as many as you can, and invade the country and take it over and fucking raze it to the ground if you have to, just as long as they surrender. And then you stay in that country with your military for decades afterwards, rebuilding and changing the institutions to make sure that they never go down that path again. This is not what happened. This is not what happens with what was going to happen with Israel ever. You're not going to do this. And trying to do it is like you're just bashing your head against a fucking brick wall until you're just bashing your head against a brick wall until the Israeli right does succeed and Palestinians actually are just relegated to either being second-class citizens or kicked out. They're not going to get Holocausted, but they can easily be kept into a permanent limbo where they're actually either just displaced from Gaza and the West Bank, or they just have to live there as non-citizens forever. Like that is that's probably the most likely outcome of the conflict. The Likud party is fairly racist, though. Yeah, big newsflash, buddy. Racists are a lot more common than like Nazis. Nazism and racism are like. People just don't understand how bad Nazis were. I don't know. I think that's it. People just don't get it. The Nazis were not just racists, okay? Fucking back then, everyone was racist back then, okay? Communists were racist, a lot of them. Trade unions were racist. Nazis literally believed that they were a superior biological fucking species that deserved control over like an entire continent, and that everyone else might as well just be slaves. And other people were so subhuman that you could just kind of kill them as one like fumigates a fucking house for rodents, like. But I suppose some religious Jewish people talk about God's chosen peoples as the same shit, eh? Whoa.
Point is, I think the final solution for Israel has not been achieved yet, right? But this would be not dissimilar to, I guess, a communist or a socialist in Nazi Germany before the final solution, pointing to the Armenian genocide.
Given the Israelis, given the military capabilities that Israel has, if they wanted to commit a Holocaust against Palestinians, they could do so. They haven't done so. They may have acted in a way that is dehumanizing. In fact, they have. They may have acted in a way without proper regard for Palestinian life. I think they have. Lots of people would agree that they have. But to compare it to the Holocaust...
The disagreement that we have is not that...
My suggestion to you would be that it is crass and offensive to compare the only Jewish state in the world. And we should, of course, be careful of eliding Israel and Judaism, of course, but it is the only Jewish state in the world, mainly comprised of Jews, comparing them to Nazis, given that Nazis literally tried to exterminate this entire race and came very close to succeeding. You don't need to do that. You shouldn't do it, and it's crassly and grossly offensive for you to do so.
Yeah, I don't mind coming across as vulgar or offensive in this regard, and maybe even hurting some people's feelings. Because at the end of the day, the analysis,
the deflection is so fucking bad. The guy needs to do it, but I don't know. People can just a few numbers about the Holocaust, and like, you're done with this shit. But if you look at, even if you believe this, right? If you believe this is an accurate portrayal of the Israel-Palestine conflict, it's really not. Like, because the parameters here are very different, like on each occasion, like of who controls what and what is actually being said about each territory here. But and given the size, remember New Jersey, compared to this is over the space of, and actually this isn't even 46. This is actually over the space of like over 100 years, because the first time these settlements were getting built was around like late 1800s. So you're looking at like about 100 years of Israel becoming like this white thing. That's pretty accurate, right? The Nazis did this in like a few fucking weeks, dude. Like from this to all this shit. I don't know. This isn't even to mention them going into fucking North Africa and into the Caucasus. I don't know.
Here from my end is,
and again, they weren't attacked from those places. They weren't attacked.
It's a genocide that has taken place, and it's continuing to a certain degree. I mean, even in the process of this so-called ceasefire, Israel has also killed approximately 4,000 people in Lebanon. The expansion in the Greater Israel Project is continuing.
Greater
the
Israel
ideology
Project
is still unimpeded. The guiding principle is still unimpeded, and therefore, I find that to be I suppose
what I'm getting at. Let's get
more offensive than
the guiding principle, the guiding internal Zionist desire to govern Marjayun. True.
Language that I'm using, especially considering that I think at this stage there are a lot of people who want to maybe hold on to some kind of defense of Israel because they understand it to be, like you just said, the Jewish nation, the only Jewish nation. I have been unbelievably critical of Saudi Arabia and every other country that has participated in the blockade of Yemen, for example. The United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia did that with our weapons once again.
The other reason that other people might say that it's offensive, well, deeply offensive to compare them to the Nazis, is however disproportionate we might think the Israeli government has been in the reaction to October the 7th, and I would agree with you that it has been disproportionate, in many cases appalling. October the 7th did happen. 1,300 Jews were killed in the most horrendous, heinous way that we might imagine. It was a pogrom. There is a major security problem for the state of Israel with Hamas and with Hezbollah. They do have to protect.
But why? You know, so what's he going to say here? Israel created Hamas. If it's October 7th, Hannibal directive, rape, something like that. We're really going to get those three?
Their own citizens and their own people.
Come on.
To compare that to the Holocaust, the Nazis weren't, to compare them to Nazis, the Nazis weren't provoked by Jews into the Holocaust. There was no security problem for the Nazis. And so to combine and compare and elide those things is not just offensive and wrong, it's just crazy.
No, your analysis is actually ahistorical. And unfortunately,
ahistorical. Come on, let's go. Let the fucking monkey in the suit tell us about our history. Let's go.
Of course, the Nazis lied about not only Jews, but socialists, communists, trade unionists alike.
They were never attacked by Jews.
Just as Israel lied about the rapes.
Yes, of course. They presented an argument as to why they must do this, why they must depose and take care of all of these nefarious elements within German society broadly, while they were also carrying out the Greater Germany project for living room purposes.
Greater Germany, to put it alongside, to make it sound synonymous with Greater Israel,
right? Not dissimilar to the Israeli Zionist expansion. But the point is, do you agree with the propaganda or the arguments? Do I agree with the Nazi argument?
I can't do it.
No.
I can't. Why does he talk about this? He doesn't know anything about the Greater Germany project. What the fuck? I'm sorry.
He's calling it that because it sounds like to make it sound like Greater Israel, right?
I know, but Jesus Christ, does he even know the word Lebensraum? I wonder if he even knows that.
He probably does. He probably does know it. He's just he's obviously just He's doing propaganda. He's just being a propagandist. It's his fucking dream, isn't it? His dream is to become a Marxist-Leninist propagandist, and there we go. We're watching it unfold.
By the
That's why
way,
he's wearing
it's
a
not,
suit.
it gets worse. It gets worse, by the way. Like, wait till he starts talking about the fucking Warsaw Ghetto Uprising,
Let's
which I know we knew
go!
was coming. 'cause-
True.
Do you
There's
want me to leave or
there's
do you-
Hamas militants who are just fucking days away from getting set in a train to fucking death camps. Nice.
Yeah, okay. I just have like a couple of things to say, and then I'll leave and I'll let you go on because I don't want to like disrupt your content or whatever. But Jesus Christ, I listened to Destiny watching this yesterday, and I got so fucking annoyed. I think the first time that I got incredibly irritated when Nazi shit came into this discourse was during the fucking trans genocide shit, and then of course it has to come back with fucking Israel. But like, I can't remember if I ranted to you about this. I've ranted on my stream about this multiple times. It is so annoying. The level of intent, like, I assume you know about the Sonderkommando and like the do you know about the Sonderkommando?
What were they doing? No, I forgot.
They were Jews who in the death camps were recruited, and by recruited I mean basically forced. Like, they were picked out, they were able-bodied men, and it was their job basically to assist with the extermination process.
I didn't know.
They revolted. The Auschwitz Sonderkommando revolted. We have pictures from inside of Auschwitz that were taken by these men because they had greater access to supplies and stuff. And they managed to cobble together a homemade camera because that they actually got to take rewards. They got a greater share of food. They lived better than other camp prisoners, but they participated in the killing process. They ran the ovens. They didn't, they ferried people into the gas chambers. They took the bodies out of the gas chambers. They cut off their hair. Then they put people in the elevator and they put them inside the ovens to kill them. They ran all of that stuff, and like, they made Jews do it. And which makes it like, this shit is I think when I learned that, it was pretty horrifying. There's a really good movie about it. It's called The Gray Zone, which is what Primo Levi wrote an essay called The Gray Zone, where he talked about how these people were in a way almost kind of like perpetrators or collaborators, and they belong in a gray zone, but we shouldn't blame them because they were ultimately part of an overall version of coercion. Same thing with like the Judenrat and the capos. Yeah, but like, I did like a whole stream segment about this that I have not yet gotten around to editing, because some of these guys survived, and one of them wrote a memoir, and he talked about like his experience being an Auschwitz Sonderkommando, and he was there during the revolt because they managed to get their hands on some gunpowder and blow up one of the crematorium. Because of the factory that was being built in the IG Farben factory in Monowitz. I think that was the name of it. The other camp, the work camp, they managed to, some of the women in that camp helped smuggle out some gunpowder to get them to these guys, and they used it to blow up one of the crematorium. And they also, those same guys also escaped from Sobibor. They did like a big prisoner escape. But like, the fact that this was a thing that happened, I just, you cannot fathom the level of intent that the Holocaust has. And then like, these fucking dumbasses who hate Israel so much that they have to compare it to Nazi Germany, that they make these comparisons. I feel like nobody knows about this. Nobody knows how, like, I feel like no one knows, people don't learn how bad the Holocaust really was. We need better education. I don't, like, yeah, especially in America. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. It triggers me when people talk about shit that one spend time studying, you know.
Well, he's in a suit,
and they
though.
don't know.
He's got a suit.
Yeah, he's in a suit. I feel like nobody should be able to talk about Nazi Germany until they've read at least one book about it, preferably one written by a historian, or at least like a fucking Wikipedia article. Like, even that would be better. I don't think Hasan has read.
But the fact is, like, it's because he doesn't care, though. He doesn't care about the Holocaust. As he only cares about, if Hasan read a book about the Holocaust, he would just sit there looking for all the little sentences and all the little bits that just remind him even marginally of Israel, because basically that's the idea. Like, the Holocaust is just a little fucking, it's just a sock for him to fucking wank into so that he can like fucking slap Israel in the face with it. Like, that's it. That's the only thing that he would use the Holocaust for. He would never talk about it just like in and of itself. and care about it like in isolation, or even definitely not consider how it contributed to the remaining surviving European Jews wanting to go to Israel and not any of the other allied nations. Like none of that, right? He doesn't care about that part of it. It's just there for him to use as a little fucking to throw stones at Israel. That's it. So
yeah, I know that it's like you guys are doing this too. You guys have become the Nazi. It's so fucking gross, man. Okay. Yeah, I'll go. By the way, chat, I'm streaming later today. Dylan Burns is going to be on. I'm going on a panel. We're going to talk about democratic strategy no later than 5 p.m. Maybe I'll start earlier than that. I don't know, but yeah, it's going to be fun. And the soy pill too. Lol. That should be interesting.
Wait, are you talking where are you having this conversation?
It's on my stream, which is at Kalinda, which is Kalinda Live on YouTube, but it's also on like a show that's being done. It's called The Marketplace of Ideas. These guys have people on and they chat about stuff. I'm surprised they haven't. I should tell them to invite you on sometime, although they always stream really late, but today they're doing it at 5 p.m. Thank God.
Good.
So yeah, which is fun. Anyway, have a good one, buddy. Good luck, chat. This is a doozy.
Take care.
It gets worse.
Hell
Bye.
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we've got another fucking. We're halfway. Shit.
Propaganda. It
Of
happens.
course not. I don't agree with the notion that Palestinians, the indigenous population predating 1948, could not potentially live alongside migrant Jews that were coming in, specifically as a.
What about Hamas? What about living next to Hamas, an organization?
What about Hamas? Again, the fucking history. Like, okay, which leader was trying to action this coexistence? Because it's true, actually, some Arab figures did want this. Some journalists actually wanted it, as did some Zionists. Ben Gurion came to fucking Palestine with bright and fucking stars in his eyes about Arab and Jewish cooperation. Like even he did, right? So, but obviously what happened was that the Arab leaders who wanted it were progressively silenced by the likes of al-Husseini and the surrounding and just like pressure from surrounding elites in different Arab nations or forming Arab nations. And the Zionists quickly got moved away from it as well because, you know, they saw the Arab revolt and they saw the Hebron massacre and they saw the 29 Jerusalem riots and the riots in Gaza, and they saw a leadership that didn't want to share the land. And again, you can make good arguments for why they didn't want to share the land, but the fact is that they didn't. So what are you going to do?
Which is dedication to the destruction of Israel.
That's a great. I'm going to get to Hamas as well. So the reason why I brought that up is because this has been a racist ideology since 1948, or even prior to 1948, that has had a lot of opposition from Jews as well. The initial, the original, the only Jewish member in the British Parliament the only member of the British Parliament that opposed the Balfour Declaration was, you know, a Jewish member of Parliament who thought that this was simply to try and this initiative was being taken. This initiative was being implemented exclusively to depose of the Jews, to deport Jews from British soil. So throughout this entire history of Israel and Palestine, this conflict gets reduced to an ethnic conflict or a religious conflict. It's not true. It's simply settler colonial expansion. And of course, there's going to be militant opposition towards that. And that militant opposition is, of course, going to evolve over time. So the idea.
But we are where we are, aren't we?
How can.
We're not in 1948. And so therefore, Israel has got to find a way to live alongside the Palestinian people. You and I, I'm sure we both agree to say that their actions have not exactly contributed to that principle or idea in recent years. But they do have to deal with Hamas. And how do they deal with Hamas, which is literally predicated? You say that Israel is racist, it's based on a racist idea. Hamas is deeply racist. They're anti-Jewish.
No. Oh, wait, really? Okay, he's just going to say it. Oh, God, he's so fucking retarded, man. Remember, Hamas's charter, which is very, very racist, their original charter, is still there. It has not been removed. It's not been formally replaced. Their own leaders have insisted that it's not being formally replaced. They just put out a fucking PR statement in 2017 to pretend to some people that it had been replaced. It hasn't. Oh, no, not Hamas. They're not. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Are you actually fucking retarded?
Do you have to deal with Hamas? And how do they deal with Hamas, which is literally predicated? You say that Israel is racist, it's based on a racist idea. Hamas is deeply racist. They're anti-Jewish.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think?
I disagree with that.
Well, the Hamas charter...
It's so fucking crazy. Like, why do people allow this? Like, what the fuck? Why is this fucking tolerated? You don't have to support Hamas to defend Palestine. You don't have to do it. Hamas are actually really bad for Palestine. They're bad for Palestinians. They're bad leaders. They literally took 2 million Gazans and just rolled a fucking dice with all of their lives and their homes and everything they own and hold dear in this world so they could launch a fucking pot shot at Israel that killed 1,200 Jews. What the fuck?
contains references to fighting racist. They're anti-Jewish.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think?
I disagree.
Well, the Hamas Charter contains references to fighting Jews as a religious duty, conspiracy claims about Jews controlling the media, finance, revolutions and wars, citations of anti-Semitic forgery.
But did you know that they have rescinded that charter and supported a two-state solution? He's going to say that, isn't he? Oh, no.
On the protocols of the Elders of Zion,
Yes,
and a
you're
notorious
referencing
hadith
the-
about Muslims
you're
fighting and killing Jews before
charter
Judgment
of-
Day.
So you're referencing the 1988 charter,
Yeah, I am.
which has been updated since 2017, but it doesn't really matter because the point of
think
the
Hamas
charter...
likes-
Actual fucking retard. Okay, I don't even know if I blame this part of what Hasan's saying because just so many people fell for it. So many people fell for it. I'm trying to find like how many different Hamas officials actually said this because there were a few. When the PLO changed their charter to recognize Israel, they held a committee vote and officially changed the charter. That's what you do when you have a charter, like you're an official party and everything, like you're a movement. But with Hamas, they didn't do any of that. They just put out a public document with a different title and just kind of allowed that and just allowed their support, their sympathizers and the media to do the rest of the work. It's insane. Let me find the, I think I took an Obsidian note on it at some point. Charter. Was it here? Or here? Also not to mention that even if you go by their new charter, where there's no racism in this one as well, when they say that the entire land, which apparently Hasan wants to have two national groups living in it with representation, is saying that Palestine is Arab and Islamic land, sacred Islamic land. That's in the new charter, let alone the old one.
Jews.
Or their opinions. Do I think Hamas likes Jews? I think that there are definitely anti-Semitic people in Palestinian society, as there are.
It's just as there's like a little bit of racism in every society, eh? Holy shit! Oh, it was Mahmoud al-Zahar who had to fucking appease the Hamas hardliners and remind them that the new charter didn't actually that the new document didn't contradict their founding charter because the goals are all the same. They never, and to this day, they've never denounced any methods that they used in the past. They've never denounced suicide bombing even. They just stopped doing it because it was harder for them to get through the border, but they haven't even denounced that. Let me find, what's this? Oh yeah, Mahmoud al-Zahar, actually around the same time that that charter was, the new charter was published, a year after on Al-Aqsa TV. These Jewish groups corrupted the societies in which they lived through usury, the worship of money, extreme miserliness, and bribery. Okay, dude. What's this guy saying? 2018 as well?
كان أكثر من ثلث القرآن يتحدث عن بني إسرائيل ليس طرفا علميا وإنما من باب أخذ الحيطة والحذر.
Another particularly colorful speaker. There's a bit of a foreboding here, actually. The cleansing of Palestine of the filth of the Jews and their uprooting from it will happen by 2022. I think this is actually referencing. Was there not a document that was suggesting that the October 7th plan was initially for 2022, but then it was pushed back a year because of they weren't prepared enough for it? The second thing is the establishment of the caliphate after the nation has been healed of its cancer, the Jews, Allah willing. Definitely not racist, though. Definitely not. Fucking retard.
88
Disgusting.
charter, which has been updated since 2017, but it doesn't really matter because the point of the
Hamas
charter
likes Jews.
or their opinions. Do I think Hamas likes Jews? I think that there are definitely anti-Semitic people in
Propagandist hack fuck as well. Do you think Hamas likes Jews? I think there's anti-Semitism. There are some anti-Semites in all of society. Like, like, come on, bro. Come on. How do people fall for this?
society as
Fuck
there are
me.
in British society, right?
There aren't
Well, we
anti-Semitic
have to
people in
look
British
at this.
society
Just as
killing
there are in British society. Yeah, okay, bro.
Jews on a regular basis.
It's because there is no real
Holy
occupation. There's no
fuck.
military occupation of England. If there was a military occupation of England by a foreign body,
Why
by
does Yemen say a curse upon the Jews? Why do the Houthis say that? Why does Iran say it? They're fucking miles away from Israel. They're not being occupied by Israel.
alien force, then I'm pretty sure you would probably rise up in arms as well. And this is not just a principle that I'm coming up with as a campist or someone who opposes imperialism. It's not pure idealism. This is something that former heads of Shin Bet have also acknowledged personally. I mean, this is something that former heads of the Israeli state have acknowledged, saying, if I was on the other side of this boundary, I would become a terrorist as well. And it's perfectly understandable.
Is he talking about Ehud Barak? Is that where that's coming from? He said this on, was it LA Times? Where is I want to see I'm actually curious now about what the full statement is there. I wonder what if I was a Palestinian at the right age, at some stage I would have entered one of the terror organizations and have fought from there, and later certainly tried to have influence within the political system. Replying to a question from Gideon Levy, immediately offered clarification. You're in essence asking if there's legitimacy for a Palestinian to fight. From our standpoint, their methods are very abominable, villainous, inhumane, and inappropriate, he said, including the killing of innocent women and children. Let's try and see the full interview. Barak, Gideon Levy, full interview, 1998. This isn't even like a very uncommon thing for Israelis to say, but usually the context of them saying it is to do with like knowing that they have a legitimate cause to fight for is not the same as like we justify them. It's not quite the same. Let's see. This is saying full interview. It's not. Wait, where's the fucking full interview?
Asked some 30 years ago what I have been doing if I were a Palestinian, and 30 years ago.
Because one time when I remember hearing it was a former IDF soldier actually saying the same thing, but when I asked them to clarify, they were talking about like the education system. Like if you're brought up in that society, then like the only place where you can ever really assert yourself or get some identity or have a sense of pride would be in like fighting, and the only groups that are willing to fight out there are like the terrorist ones. So kind of fucked there. I'm just wondering if there's any like what the question was.
In politics, and 30 years ago, I was new enough in politics to tell the truth that if I were born Palestinian, I probably would have joined one of the terror organizations.
What's the context of that quote? Feels like he's about to. I want to hear how he elaborates on it, because that can mean like quite a few different things. I'm just not sure if we can find where the full interview is. Thanks for the dono, Boof Clouds. Appreciate it.
Hello.
Whatever.
Understandable that people would oppose 80 years of military occupation.
But you see what Hasan's doing here as well is first he denies it, and then he follows up by defending it. So which one is it? The question was whether or not Hamas were anti-Semitic or they were racist. And you said no, they're not. But now you're saying, well, even Israelis say that if they were brought up in Palestine, they would join a terror group. It's like, well, which one is it? Like, so they are racist? It's just they're justified in being racist, or you understand why they're racist? Like, again, but that's not a difficult position to own. It is understandable why Palestinians are fucking racist. Like, of course it is. That's just not, but that's not the beginning and end of the story. As in, like, Arab anti-Semitism was a problem even before the occupation. It was. And lots of Arab countries have massive levels of anti-Semitism, even when they are either at peace with Israel or just not doing anything against Israel, or Israel's not doing anything against them.
This occupation, humiliation, and subjugation. And to go back to the point that you were making about,
but you're trying to have both things at once, because again, it's like you can do that when you're a propagandist, because both of them sound good. No, they're not racist. Also, if they are, like, it's completely understandable. And Ehud Barak said that thing in 1998.
There was no resistance from Jewish partisans. This is also not true. Jewish partisans engaged in incredibly honest and incredibly moral acts of violence that was necessary at the time against key Nazi officials, including an uprising known as the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising.
Hey, there he did the Warsaw Ghetto. Let's go. I'm fucking bouncing. I can't believe it. Let's go. Let's hear about why the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising is even 1% overlap with the fucking October 7th attacks. Come on, buddy.
It was perfectly morally just, even though there were
officials. When in the fuck has a Palestinian militant group ever, like, has Hamas ever gone after a key fucking official or like a key target? What the fuck?
acts of violence that took place. History is riddled with colonial occupants and even slaves, for example.
You've been reported as saying
in chattel slavery, engaging in heinous acts of violence that we would oppose at the time that ultimately lead to liberation. And once the dust is settled, we
what
look
does
back.
liberation look like? What does liberation look like? Is it the Israeli state collapsing, or what does it look like?
Great question.
Great question.
So from my perspective,
binational one-state solution that no one wants. Let's go.
I'm not Palestinian, right? So I think ultimately this is something that is that should be left to the people that are being occupied to come to terms with. But from my estimation, I agree with the likes of Abi Shlaim, famous Iraqi.
It is funny when he talks about heinous acts. Like, what heinous acts did the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising Jews do? They were fighting with fucking Nazis. They were fighting with soldiers and police officers who were trying to take them to fucking camps to kill them, dude.
Jewish Israeli historian that a abolition of the apartheid state that currently exists and the end of the occupation must take place. Some people believe in a binational commitment. I think that's perfectly valid. Some people claim that a two-state is viable. I don't necessarily believe that a two-state with the 67 boundaries is viable because of the fact that since the so-called peace process since the 90s, Israel has deliberately extended the settlement operations in the West Bank, and now the number of Jewish
Would you
settlers
accept
that are
something the Israeli government have long wanted, and for understandable reasons, is that Hamas would de-arm, would demilitarize as an exchange for any deal? Do you think that would be a reasonable request?
Absolutely
that Hamas would
not,
lay down
no.
their weapons?
I think that it's perfectly reasonable for a two-state solution, if that's what the suggestion is, a two-state solution where
Both of them
one of the two
disarming, right?
states is still going to have a standing military. Will that be Hamas as a political organization, or will that be the Palestinian National Forces? I do not know. But ultimately, of course, if there is a sovereign state, a sovereign Palestinian state, of course they're going to have a standing military. It doesn't have to be Hamas. I'm not married to the idea. I don't necessarily care. To me, Hamas is simply a one of the many different Palestinian resistance groups that has existed throughout time. I don't agree with their domestic policies, but I feel like that is utterly immaterial because the conversation that we're having is about ending the occupation.
It's just their domestic policies. Really, nothing to say about their methods. They target civilians. Suicide bombings. What? Indiscriminate rocket fire? What are we talking about, buddy? What the fuck? Not even to mention the way that they fight within Gaza, just hiding everything underneath fucking people's houses and shit.
And Hamas ultimately wants to end the occupation. Hamas would never exist and certainly would not be as violent as it has been if there hadn't been, 80 years of occupation prior. Hamas, we were talking about the charter in 1988. That
80
charter,
years of occupation prior. So from 48 to 67, Gaza was occupied by Egypt. Then from 67 to, what would that be? 67 to 2005. Or a bit, you're missing a few years there. You could multiply by 2, I suppose. And then from 2005 until 2007, not only was there not an Israeli military occupation inside Gaza, there also wasn't actually the same blockade that we had after 2007. There were some restrictions, but there wasn't the blockade that we, as we understand it, in earnest, wasn't until 2007 after Hamas took over.
was written when Hamas wasn't even an actual political organization, but a Muslim Brotherhood cutout that was an Islamic charity that was getting funds from
the occupation is the occupation is just Israel existing, I guess. Why not?
The Israeli government, as a matter of fact.
I'm thinking about the reasons why it might be that the Home Office has banned you, and I certainly, for the record, by the way, I don't think you
should. Is probably part of it, don't you think?
Well, we'll discuss them. For the record, I've tweeted out this week. I think ridiculous that you've been banned. I think that and so on. But let's think about the Home Office's justification, what it might be. I mean, is it true that you said that you considered Hamas to be 1,000 times better than Israel, and you'd vote for Hamas over Israel every single time? Is that true, and do you stand by it?
Yeah, I do.
That's despite the fact that Hamas was responsible for October the 7th and a pogrom against Jewish people. You said you'd vote for them 1,000 times over the democratic state of Israel.
It wasn't a pogrom against Jewish people. Were there atrocities and war crimes?
You don't think that there was any anti-Semitism involved in it?
Absolutely.
This is where you go wrong, Hasan. You find yourself basically in a position defending elements of this.
Why I'm wrong.
I'm telling you why you're wrong, because you're honestly saying you saw Jewish people, overwhelmingly Jewish people killed that day. It was a pogrom. It was the biggest pogrom of Jews that we've seen, against Jews that we've seen since the end of the Second World War. Why do you find yourself in a position where you're like, okay, I'm actually
what was the bigger one? I think after the Holocaust, there was a pogrom in Poland in 1946 where about 1,000 Jews were killed, give or take. But not. I think that was that not a series of pogroms? No. I love it how like any attack on any terrorist group in the Middle East is immediately Islamophobia, but October 7th is not an attack against Jews because they're just particular Jews who happen to be in a certain place and the wrong place at the wrong time, occupying whatever the fuck. Like it's actually because of context and blockade and everything else. Like I love it how like there's that kind of nuance or attempted fucking veneer of nuance for whether or not October 7th was an attack against Jews, but everything in the Middle East is an attack against fucking Islamophobia, right? Even if you attack Hamas, Hasan for supporting terrorists. Jordan, thanks for the tier 2 sub. Neither side seems to think reducing their own side's brutality will increase international sympathy for their side. Whoa. I agree with that. The problem is that when Palestinian militant groups increase their brutality, they suffer more. Like not the other side. The other side suffers as well, but it's mostly them. Hedonic Samuel, thanks for the $5. I'm not even convinced Hasan even has real glasses at this point. Fake intellectual. Okay. And also, thank you, Versus Hearts, for the 10 gifted subs. Wow, that's so generous of you. Shit. 3 more for the goal, guys. Well done.
Defend that principle. I'm going to defend the argument about that. Why? You just undermine yourself.
Great question.
Yeah, why?
Great question. I actually gave an interview to the Times UK on this as well, and I'll explain exactly why.
Please.
So October 7 was traumatic. There were heinous acts of violence that took place. No doubt about it. I would never agree again. I mean, I would never disagree with that assessment. What I will disagree with,
Do you see what he's saying here as well? Do you see what he's saying here as well? This is like how someone like me would describe the war in Gaza, right? Like, I would say like, you have a legitimate cause, which is going after Hamas, but atrocities were committed. As in like, there shouldn't have been any retaliatory action against Hamas. Not that there shouldn't have been any attempt to go after Hamas. As in like the war, it's in principle is generally justified. It's just the actions that were taken. A lot of them were criminal and were like heinous. That's what you would say about a legitimate operation. Something that's fundamentally a legitimate operation, but has parts of it and was carried out in excess or is carried out in an inhumane way, or like you disapprove of the implementation, or just that there were war crimes committed alongside. When he says this, when he says that like, there were atrocities committed, he's also quietly saying there that the general idea of launching a military attack against Israel, like the general principle of the attack was justified, is what he's saying. Like that's the hidden part of what he's saying there. When you say, oh yeah, I think there were some heinous acts carried out. Not that October 7th itself was a heinous act. Because the entire October 7th operation was about targeting civilians. It was about targeting Israelis. And we know from the way that people like Sinwar and other officials were talking about a potential attack on Israel before it happened, that they were expecting it. And even what they were saying when the attack was happening, Ismail Haniyeh and the other Politburo officials were in Qatar on TV saying, now is the time to rise up and take the country back. Like they were literally expecting militants in the West Bank to join in. They were expecting Lebanon to join in. They were expecting militants that were still in Syria to join in. They were expecting it to snowball into an attack from all fronts at the same time. Even from Palestinian Israelis, they were expecting to join in.
Is the intentionality. The idea that October 7 was done specifically to kill as many Jewish people as possible, I think is incorrect. I think the ultimate goal for the Palestinian resistance, whether we agree with their methods or tactics or not, and I certainly have my disagreements, the ultimate goal of the
Palestinian
disagreements.
They killed 1,300 people and raped people.
Of course.
Killed innocent young people at music festivals.
But the ultimate goal is to make the occupation as costly as possible, because the extended 80-year...
He justifies that. He supports that. That bit there, the goal is to make the occupation as costly as possible. He justifies that. He thinks that's acceptable. He thinks it's acceptable to carry out attacks against Israelis because it makes the occupation costly. I mean, this is what happened in Algeria. Like the FLN did this, and they attacked civilians as well. Actually, quite wantonly targeted civilians. They didn't give a fuck a lot of the time. Compared to even the ANC, the FLN were especially like vicious against civilians. But this is the flaw. This is why fucking Hamas Piker fucking retard in a suit is always going to be on the losing side of this. This is why the Palestinian quote unquote resistance movement, this is why like the whole concept Muqawama will always fail. It will always fail because the difference is that when they say occupation, they mean like Israel existing is the occupation, because they consider an occupation of Palestinian land from 48. That's how they see it. And when they say that, they are treating Israel like it's just any other settler colony, like it's like the French in Algeria, or it's like the fucking Haiti or anything like that. They think, or the British in Kenya, they think that they're there because they want to make some money, because they want to exploit some fucking land. They want to, you know, like, what was it? Like, enjoy the fruits of the rich soil or whatever the fuck. Like, they think they're there for that. They're there for fucking memes, basically. And all you need to do is just say that, okay, well, you can benefit from this and that, and like your little settlement produce and your Sabra and your tech industry and all that. But as soon as we make it not worth any of that, as in the violence makes it no longer worth it, then you have to leave. So the French are in Algeria. The FLN were saying, okay, let's just make it very expensive to stay here. Let's just make it more expensive than what you're gaining from being here. So that included targeting civilians in urban centers. It included targeting the military. It included targeting the police. And then the French responded, even that was part of the cost as well, because the French in the mainland were like, why the fuck are we paying to protect a colony that most of us give no shits about? So even that was part of the cost as well. You see, so even the French defense of their colonial occupation in Algeria was part of the cost. And that cost was imposed by the FLN. So that's why it succeeded. You're never going to do that in Israel. You're never going to do that because Israel is occupying
paper cranes and wish for a competent debater, well versed on this issue, to challenge Hasan on live. I appreciate this guy for trying though. Appreciate you, Mr. Box.
Thanks for the $13.99. Israel is occupying. First of all, Israel is just a country. It's not occupied. But if you want to consider occupation, they're there because it's the only place in the world where they were able to go after the Holocaust. That's basically it. They're, you know, half of the world's Jews found some kind of salvation in America and in various European countries. The other half were ended up in Israel. They didn't have that option. Like America was not open, or the rest of Europe was not open to the remaining Jews that ended up in Israel. And some were already there, obviously, because of from the Zionist movement. So that's why they're there. They're not going anywhere because the alternative to them is you die. Like you can't impose a cost higher than death, right? So when they occupy the West Bank, it's the same because they believe that, and for relatively good reason, if you're coming out of the West Bank and you pull out in the same way that you did with Gaza, unilaterally, as Mr. Piker would love them to do, then who has been dominating every poll in the West Bank for the last 15 years? It's Hamas. And as soon as that check is gone, as soon as there's no IDF there, as soon as the PA are just there left to their own wits with their own people, Hamas will take over the West Bank. And then that's another place where October 7th that has much more geographical strategic value, like the hilltops of the West Bank, would be just ceded. And then again, you're not going to impose a cost that is higher than death. You can't impose a cost higher than that, which is why these resistance movements, these violent resistance movements, will always fail. It's because they fail to understand why Israelis are even fucking there. Like, they don't know, or they don't care. But at the very least, Hasan is actually coming close to characterizing his little fucking terror buddies fairly. He doesn't usually do that. There's a pretty clear, like one of the people, Nasrallah worded it pretty well, actually. This whole thing about imposing a cost, that phrase, by the way, is not an accident. It's very much like the language of the FLN and of the ANC and of like anti-colonial movements, is to impose a cost that is greater than the benefit of the occupation. That didn't come out of nowhere. He didn't come up with that himself. This is Nasrallah in the year 2000. Their real land, i.e. Israelis, is Ethiopia as far as the Falasha are concerned, and Russia as far as the Russian emigres are concerned. And there will be a time when these people will really feel nostalgia for their original homeland. Again, this is in reference to terror. Like the terror will cause people to feel nostalgia for a place where they weren't getting rocketed every day. But again, they don't. Ethiopian Jews are never going to feel nostalgia for Ethiopia. Russian Jews are never going to feel nostalgia for going back to fucking, least of all now, right? Mostly because, and Mizrahi Jews, who are the most like right-wing big block of them all, are never going to, you think Iraqi Jews are one day going to feel nostalgia for Iraq and go back and think, okay, this isn't worth it anymore. Let's go to Iraq where we won't be attacked for being Jews. You fucking serious? But that's the difference. Not only do Jews see themselves as being at home, they also see themselves as indigenous. It's like, who said that 2000 quote? That was Nasrallah, the former leader of Hezbollah, who died in 2024. or 23,
or at the
No,
time,
24, yeah.
75-year occupation, had done October 7's.
So the ends
at
justify the means, do they?
1,000
The ends
times
justify the means.
1,000.
If I can
No,
compare
of
it to
course
something
not.
in the
And
UK,
that's precisely
Hasan.
the reason why I don't believe that the Israeli ends justify the means, and that's precisely the reason why I'm saying.
So why do
that
you then say that
Hamas
Hamas is 1,000 times
Here's
better
why.
than Israel?
Because Israel has done an October 7 1,000 times over to the Palestinian population.
They haven't. 1,000 times 1,200. Dude, you could say 100 maybe once if you want to be. It's probably the amount of Palestinians that Israel has killed in the entire conflict since 1882. It's probably about 100,000, maybe a bit more. Lebanon was quite a heavy toll. What's that in 9/11s? True.
The civilian casualty.
They often tell
armed
people where they're
enemy
going to bomb. I'm
combatant
not
rate,
defending
the civilian
Israel. I'm not
casualty
defending
armed-
Israel, Hasan, but like I think that a lot of
No,
people
you're
just
Israel's existence has almost nothing to do with the Holocaust itself. It has quite a bit to do with the Holocaust. It does actually have quite a bit to do with the Holocaust because for one, it was kind of like the last nail in the coffin for Jewish people feeling like they could be safe anywhere else, but also because those DP camps that filled up with Jews after the war, like where the Allies didn't know what to do with all these Jewish survivors. So in a lot of cases, they just reopened the concentration camps and used them as displaced persons facilities. But they didn't know what to do with them. And when they were pulled on it, a lot of them wanted to go to Israel because they'd kind of lost faith in the rest of Europe and in the United States. And obviously they'd already lost faith in the rest of the Middle Eastern countries as well. So I'd say the Holocaust played quite a bit of a role in Israel.
look at the
defending
facts.
Israel,
That's
but
crazy.
but that's the point I'm driving home. And this
That's
is the reason why I
crazy.
have this conversation, because a lot of people have, due to social conditioning, this kind of hang up where they don't want to analyze the situation in an effort to actually make sure that there's no more violence. I abhor
No,
violence.
just don't
I'm
minimize October
anti-violence.
7th. I mean, to compare it
minimization.
to, say, a British context, you could have absolutely said, I'm sure you would be in this position, you could say, look, I have complete solidarity with the Irish Republican cause. But you don't need to have solidarity with the Irish Republican Army and what they did against the UK, killing innocent civilians. It is possible to have both thoughts in your head at the same time. You can have complete solidarity with the Palestinian
Well,
people
Hassan loves the IRA. He's like an up the raw guy.
without defending
look,
Hamas
I have
a single
solidarity
bit.
with-
And you do defend Hamas. and
I
that's
do
what's
have solidarity
objectionable
with
about
the
your
Irish
point.
Republican
I
Army.
defend anti-colonial resistance movements when there are aspects of their anti-colonial resistance or their ideology.
There's nothing to
or
defend. They kill
their
innocent people.
overarching
There's nothing to
goals
defend.
that
A lot of
I don't find
Palestinians
to be
don't defend them either.
objectionable.
They hate them because they can kill
Okay, well,
innocent
the
kids.
question is this, right? The question I would present to you is this. Do you think that the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was a condemnable act by...
That wasn't an attack on civilians. He just asked you about civilians, you fucking charlatan piece of shit. You fucking prick. Like, they asked you about civilians. What civilians did they target in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising? None. But they went after the fucking... They were fighting with the SS and the police officers. Nazi police officers. Bro.
Jewish partisans that got together and organized the...
Most of them were led by Zionists, actually, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. So you don't give a fuck about them, Hasan. Like, what are you talking about?
The situations are the same. No. Because
they're
the
not
Jews-
the same.
At that point, the
Because at
Holocaust
that
had
point-
not been completely implemented.
Oh, but
What do you mean
Kristallnacht had-
completely? It was already being... Oh, I love that. Completely. It was being implemented. Was Israel implementing a Holocaust on Gaza before October 7th? Were they doing that? Is that what we're going to call it?
systemic destruction of Jewish people.
Okay.
They're all being rounded up into ghettos.
So
And
wait,
I'm
hold
not
on.
saying, Hasan, of
75
course.
years of apartheid.
And I
75
don't.
years of apartheid.
And I do not for a single second.
Wasn't as violent.
I do not
Of course
for
it was as violent.
I do not for a
It
single
was
second.
as violent. Oh, okay. He actually thinks that Israel was being as violent as fucking. Did I hear that properly?
And by the way,
Not. At that point, the
Because at
Holocaust
that
had
point-
not been completely implemented.
oh, but Kristallnacht had systemic destruction of Jewish people.
Okay.
They're all being rounded up into
75
ghettos.
so
And
wait,
I'm
hold
not
on.
saying, Hasan, of
75
course.
years of apartheid.
And I
75
don't.
years of apartheid.
And I do not for a single
Apartheid
second.
wasn't as violent.
I do not
Of course
for
it was as violent.
I do not
It
for,
was as violent. He thinks that Israel for 75 years was being as violent as the Nazis were from the late 30s into the war. Are you fucking serious? Man, he's out of his fucking mind. He's insane. He's insane. Hang on. Would I wager that I know people talk about like, oh yeah, the Holocaust wasn't like fully decided on as policy until 1941, 42, but they were still, even in the invasion of Poland at the end of 39, they were already rounding up Jews and killing them, along with Poles and other political opponents. I wonder if Nazis actually killed more Jews even just like by the end of 39 than Israel is. Maybe. But I don't know if you'd ever get a number for that. Because when people talk about the Holocaust, they're usually mounting up the deaths from 1941 onwards from the death squads. Well, no, actually, well, even Babin Yar, that was 41, late 41. That was when they murdered like 33,000 Jews in a single fucking location in like 2 days. Oh, God.
For a single second. And by the way, let's talk about the Warsaw Ghetto. That way they were attacking SS officers. They were attacking their oppressors, not kids at music festivals.
I don't disagree with you as far as the targeting of civilians. I'm simply stating, and there are condemnable actions, which I have condemned. What I'm simply stating is the principle overall of the end to the occupation.
Okay, the principle was for the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was that we're going to die anyway, so we might as well die killing some fucking SS officers. That was it. It was it's pretty depressing, really. Pretty sad. Like, they were going to die anyway. They were getting thrown into a camp anyway. I think they generally believed they were going to Treblinka, right? Which they knew was a gas chamber. I think they were actually, maybe some of them were getting taken to labor camps, but again, labor camp was, again, you worked until you died. So, what's the rationale for Hamas doing what they did on October 7th? What, to make Gaza a better place? What? To bring us closer to Israelis and Palestinians sharing the land in a binational state? Are you fucking mental?
Militant resistance in an effort to create an end to the occupation is literally a fundamental aspect of every successful liberation movement. So when I actually analyze the actions taken by not only Hamas but also Hezbollah right now, for example, because Lebanon is currently being pummeled by Israel once again.
Because Hezbollah fired at Lebanon, you fucking asshole. It's not this. It's never the same. It's never the same. It's never the same. Literally, fucking to destroy the Abraham Accords. That was one reason. Yeah, but as far as everything we've known from what their documentation was saying, they were already planning October 7th in principle before Abraham. It wasn't, again, like, let's find the thing. Let's find Sinwar yapping about it, if I still have it. I need to get a few of these together, actually, because, no, the point of October 7th was that, one, I guess it was because if it failed, at least it's going to bring Palestine back onto the world stage. That was obviously a big part of it. But the other part of it as well was that Sinwar seemed to genuinely think it was going to succeed. He really did seem to talk as if it was just going to actually spark an uprising in the West Bank, within Israel proper, and within Lebanon. And if that had all happened, Israel would have probably been destroyed. Like, Israel like has a pretty tight security system, but if you've got like West Bank militant groups being able to cut across and like chopping the country in half effectively, and if you've got Hezbollah unloading from the north, and you've got Iran firing ballistic missiles, like the Iron Dome's getting overwhelmed easily, you would have, I don't know, that would have been like a very, very fucking you'd have been at least fucking no man's land. Like you'd be like rolling a dice to figure out what comes a few days after that all transpires. But it was here, wasn't it? May 26, 2021. Oh God, the clip's fucking gone, dude. I should have saved it. Oh no. Oh.
The emphasis on the colonial occupant. I place the emphasis on the foreign occupying power because they hold all the power.
Look, I get everything you're saying, Hasan, but you know when
they're still foreign. 75 years, they're still foreign though, eh?
You say that Hamas is 1,000 times better than Israel. I mean, let's leave aside the facts that Israel, whatever we think about it, is a democratic state, admittedly one that's been going down a more authoritarian direction. You say you'd vote for...
It's democratically in favor of genocide and apartheid. So
it's also got Arab Israelis and Palestinian Israelis who live there as citizens with others, which is not the same as apartheid in South Africa.
They're considered second-class citizens as dictated by the Israeli constitution.
But the point is...
No, it's not. He doesn't even know his own fucking talking points, man. He's so fucking brain dead. It is not dictated by the Israeli constitution that they're second-class citizens. The constitution actually says the opposite. The argument would be that the practices of discriminatory land ownership and discriminatory allotments of property or discriminatory behavior by this is where you would make the apartheid argument, or maybe in the nation-state law, but not in the constitution. Like, okay.
is
are
that
varying degrees. There are varying degrees of discrimination in Israeli society.
But I tell you where there's a lot of
Obviously,
discrimination in Hamas-run Gaza. I mean, how would you feel about being a gay man, for example, living under Hamas, or a woman, for example?
I'd probably
And
be worried about Israeli bombs.
you say you would vote for them 1,000 times over. You can't vote for them.
I know gay Palestinians, and they would say the
Oh.
exact same thing that I'm about to tell you. The biggest threat to their existence is the Israeli occupation. They might have disagreements with Hamas. They might not
Yeah, they'd be pushed off a
certain
bridge.
Elements. No, that's racialized.
It's not racialized. It literally happens.
No, 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 that's not
LGBT
true.
Hassan,
No, come on,
LGBT
that's
groups
not
around the
true.
world
No, you're
have
making ISIS
condemned her.
comparisons. That's not true. That's
Come on,
that's
come
simply
on.
not true.
Hamas, like Sinwar, murdered one of his own commanders for being gay, like, and tried to frame him as a fucking collaborationist.
So you think
No,
that
it is
literally
I will have to
true.
push back
That
on this.
Israel doesn't have a constitution. He's talking about basic laws. He'll be talking about the nation state law. That's why he thinks that makes Palestinian Israelis second-class citizens. But okay.
What you're saying is actually not true, and also a little bit messed up to say, because these groups are very different from one another. I am not an Islamist personally.
You also you just support them. You also miss out on a lot of the anti-Israel talking points when you do this as well. You know that like one of the more controversial coercion tactics that IDF officers use to get Palestinian militants to talk, or even sympathizers to talk, is if they find a gay Palestinian, they will threaten to out them to their community. They'll gather info on them being gay, I guess, like videos of whatever, like, and then they'll threaten to out them to their community. And that if you're gay, you're probably going to talk, right? You don't want because you're fucked anyway. But that's because they're exploiting the homophobia in the West Bank and Gaza. Like, that's why they're doing that. Which is pretty fucking atrocious thing for Israelis to do, actually. Like, for the IDF to do. That's like a pretty nasty fucking tactic. But I guess Hasan can't even say that because it would mean that you have to admit that there's homophobia in Gaza. Shit.
Obviously, I'm not someone who's ever going to be in favor of religious fundamentalism. But Hamas does not represent religious fundamentalist governance. It represents.
You can get
Yes, they do. Loner, please, for fuck's sake, Israel does not have a constitution. I literally just said he'll be referring to basic laws, but okay, whatever. I'm sorry, can I just hear that again?
Hamas to say, because these groups are very different from one another. I am not an Islamist personally, obviously. I am not I'm not someone who's ever going to be in favor of religious fundamentalism, but Hamas does not represent religious fundamentalist governance. It represents
you can get up to 10 years in prison for being gay.
Group.
You can get up to 10 years in prison for being gay down the barrel of a Hamas gun. That wouldn't happen to you in Tel Aviv. Whatever we think about Israel, that wouldn't happen to you in Tel Aviv.
Matter.
It doesn't matter, bro. IDPOL. Palestine's land use status have been elevated to, this is even from their friendly one, right? The Islamic Resistance Movement, Islamic National Liberation. Palestine is an Arab Islamic land. Heart of the Islamic Ummah. Even the Christian holy places in Jerusalem, they don't mention the Jewish ones. Okay. Belong to the Palestinian people and to the Arab and Islamic Ummah. They also did this in their governance as well. They even established this committee, didn't they? This was their equivalent to like a morality police, the Committee for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. Catching out like haram behavior. Yeah, it was Shin Bet that does the gay thing, not the IDF. Got me. Boom. Retard. Dating. Yeah, dating is haram, isn't it? Shit. Aim to fight those who are being corrupted by Satan and do not observe Sharia law. Gee. Oh, wow. Thank you. Page not found. Love that. I really don't know. This never really gets brought up that much, though. It still exists, as far as I know. The Committee of Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. And they do operate more or less like the morality police does. They catch people so they can fucking persecute them or prosecute them for things that in most free societies you would consider to be like completely fine. Like gambling or dating or fucking not wearing your stuff properly. Just the Met police then, true.
because the gay people
you
are
might
being
not think
killed
it
by
matters, but
Israeli bombs.
you
Because
might not-
Business time. Thanks for the 10 gifted subs. I really appreciate that. Shit. 2 more for the goal, guys. 2 more. Also, speaking into the void. I really appreciate that 13.99 from earlier. Thank you so much. Wow.
think it
gay
matters. Yes, but you're the one
if you were
saying that
asking
I would
gay
vote for them
Palestinian right now,
1,000 times.
if you
I
were
agree
asking
with
gay
you.
Palestinian right now, as I have, they would tell you that the number one problem is not Hamas, it's Israel. There are Palestinians
Well, but
whose
that you say that because you completely fucking ignored the anti-Hamas protesters who, first and foremost, were putting Hamas first as the cause of their problems, by the way. That group of people that we've all conveniently completely forgotten about that got the fucking
Have you
shit
read
kicked
Dan
out of them by
Stone's
Hamas
The
and then
Liberation
never
of the
to be heard from
Camps,
again?
The End of the Holocaust and its Aftermath? It's all about the DP camps after the war. It's depressing. Nobody wanted them. Zionism became super important there.
Thanks for the $20. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I have not read that, but I know the story. I'm aware of the gist.
family members
There are lots
have
of Palestinians
opposed
who think Hamas
that
is
are
a
from
problem.
different. Yes, exactly. There are Palestinians from different factions, right? There are Palestinians that are engaging in tribal conflict and sectarian conflict, sometimes with Hamas, and yet they will always tell you.
Maybe this is why you've been
universally,
banned, Hasan.
The number one.
Again, he's trying to say they all say this, but this is also because fucking Dropsite, those disgusting fucking like those fucking invertebrate reptile bastards. Like they were the ones who were trying to say that the protesters against Hamas were literally just like still affirming their support for the resistance movement and everything. As in like they were fabricating quotes. They shared a fabricated quote from the claiming to be from the Mukhtars of was it Deir al-Bala? No, it was Beit Lahia. They were claiming to be elders from Beit Lahia, which is where the protest started. But they used this quote, which, as far as I could tell, only just came from a fucking tweet by some random Hamas simp, where they were supposedly saying that they still support the resistance, but they just have like domestic issues and they're actually protesting against being genocided. But that's not what they were saying at all. We watched, how many of those clips did we watch of those anti-Hamas protesters? They were literally saying, Hamas are the ones who are gambling with our lives. We don't want to fight anymore. We don't like it when Hamas uses our society as a launch pad to fight with Israel. Like they were saying it like basically word for word that they blamed Hamas for what was happening to them, because if Hamas stopped fighting, they knew that the bombs would stop falling on them. Like, so fuck.
problem from the Palestinian perspective is, of course, the occupying forces, is, of course, the country that is maintaining an apartheid, the nuclear armed nation that has not only just done a genocide in the last 3 years, but also maintained an apartheid for the last 80 at this point. This is the reason
This
why
is the
a lot
thing,
of people...
you can believe that Israel has committed unbelievably appalling atrocities. You can even believe it's committed evil atrocities. You can even believe that it's committed a genocide while still believing that Hamas is morally and politically appalling, that you wouldn't say that I would vote for them 1,000 times over Israel, because it deliberately
Over
targets
Israel, I
civilians.
would.
It deliberately targets civilians as an organization. It rejects coexistence
Israel
and
deliberately
is
targets
fundamentally authoritarian and theocratic.
But you don't do apologia for Israel. Okay.
Problem, Israel mathematically deliberately targets and destroys the lives of a far larger number of
So it's just a
civilians.
utilitarian
Do
measure.
do we think that Palestinians are human beings? I think you and I don't disagree on this. They're human beings.
But do you think
right?
the Nazis
So
were
if
worse
one
than the
party
Israeli
has
government?
killed-
You think the Nazis
if one
were worse
party
than the
has
Israeli
killed
government, right?
thousands times, let me answer you this question. If one government has killed 1,000 times more, if not more than 1,000 times more civilians, as opposed to the other party, of course you're going to say
you
one
compare
party
the
is worse
Israelis
than
That's
to the Nazis.
amazing. I love it how I love it how the problem is that like Israel successfully contains the October 7th attack and doesn't let it spread, and therefore like Hamas are only as bad as 1,000 killed. Like, okay, man, one day we need a schizo meme. We don't need this. Those would be really bad. But there maybe it should be one day, like if populism and all this crazy fucking media stuff goes, maybe we'll actually get it. We're gonna get a meme prime minister in Israel who's just going to like let the guardrails down for like 7 days and just to see how much fucking damage all these militant groups do, and then put them back up again if they even can by that point. Are you seriously suggesting most Palestinians in Gaza are anti-resistance? From the last PSR poll, and from the polls that have gone through PSR since October 7th, it seems that for the first time in years, support for armed resistance has only gone down in Gaza. Probably because, they're starting to realize that armed resistance really just hurts Palestinians. It didn't really hurt Israelis that much compared to Palestinians. The last one I saw was that it was actually less than half, actually. Where's that one? No, not here. Here? 2020. Is it only 2024 is their most recent one? No, 25 they've done ones as well. Okay, okay. Is it poll number 96? Is that their most recent one? Yeah, okay. Whoa. Where's the chart? How reliable are the polls? Well, with what you're asking about polls, if risk is a factor, it would actually mean that whatever answer you get is going to be the most pro-Hamas, pro-resistance answer you could get. Because in the West Bank, in October 2025, a majority of Palestinians still support armed struggle, 43%, even though support for negotiations has only gone up since 2022, 37%. In Gaza, armed resistance used to hold 50% of their support, and now it's down to 34%. So this is actually one of the more exceptional points in recent history where more Gazans support peaceful popular resistance or negotiations as opposed to armed resistance. You see the irony there that armed resistance is more popular in the West Bank than it is in Gaza, because the closer you are to it and to the consequences, the less inclined you are to like it. So yeah, only a third, as of the last poll, shows Gazans supporting armed struggle over peaceful and protests and negotiations. But again, I think generally, if you looked at, I don't know much about Gaza, but if you looked at the West Bank, even people who don't want to do armed resistance themselves or don't support it as a first choice would probably still support people who have engaged in it. Like armed resistance still holds like a very like romantic kind of status in Palestinian culture. But my argument would still stand either way, is that it doesn't help them. It never has.
But you would accept the Nazis were worse than what the Israeli government has done.
So far, the Nazis, of course, are worse than what the Israeli government has done. However, my fear, and this is the reason why genocide is not measured in how successful it was in wiping out an entire population, but instead genocide nowadays, the statute itself is measured not with the actions alone, but also with the intent, because the whole purpose of the genocide statute is to stop a genocide.
Do you think this might be, Hasan, why you've, and again, I don't agree with the fact you've been banned, but maybe this is why you've been banned, because you openly support, maybe ultimately this is why you've been banned. Again, I don't support your banning, but maybe the British government has decided,
does no one do people just not do any vetting or any research anymore? Like it was very Hasan, it wasn't hard to find that clip of Hasan just like supporting attacks on RAF infrastructure, but Hamas is better than Israel because Israel's killed more civilians, but also yep. What can you do, eh? What can you do?
I support it a little bit.
No, I don't. I think I don't agree with a lot of what you say, but I'm absolutely happy for you to come to Britain.
Opinion on this.
Shabana Mahmood has a different view, clearly, or at least the Home Office does, and maybe that's why, because ultimately they think that we don't need this guy over here openly praising an organisation which this government has prescribed and which is a terrorist organisation at a time when we do have a rising problem and an appalling problem with anti-Semitic violence in this country.
Ironically enough, the last time
this Lewis guy is it's. You know when you're in a position where things are just like very, very fucked, so you'll just kind of take the bare minimum, like beggars can't be choosers. And this is why this interview is like slightly satisfying, because he's being asked marginally challenging question. It's still a pretty soft interview. No, the fact that a lot of what this guy's saying is just like, oh well, like I agree with you on that, I agree with you on that, I agree with you on that. But doesn't it sound bad? Like I don't know, this guy is, or aren't you just kind of like hurting your own? It seems like they're still trying to say that like, oh yeah, like ultimately still cool, but like there's do you not think you'd be better with this? Like this is not really the. But this is going to be like frustrating for Hasan's audience, right? Like they're going to hate this, that he's being asked these questions. But at the end of the day, this is still a soft interview. This is not like, it's just that it's better than 99% of what you typically get in terms of pushback. I don't know. I want to see like a Paxman or like a fucking Andrew Neil with the fucking smug, sneering fucking hemorrhoid leaning forward. Well, it appears that in 2024 you said the complete opposite of what I wanted to see that shit. The squinting.
was at Oxford Union, I delivered a speech extensively on anti-Semitism being the canary in the coal mine of fascism and how we must always oppose it. Since then, my opinion hasn't shifted on this issue. I think it's morally repugnant, it's odious, and it's wrong. Simply put, it's just the wrong calculation. Because there are some people who will say, oh, well, a lot of Jewish people support Israel. Why don't you just oppose Jews? Are you too afraid to say it? And I always tell them, like, this is not the case, because Jews are not a monolith. No group of individuals are a monolith. If Jews were monolithic in their approach to Israel, then there wouldn't be a multi-million-dollar propaganda initiative that specifically targets young American Jews. I don't know how it is in the UK, but young American Jews, and indoctrinate them into Zionism early on, which has been failing spectacularly, which is part of the reason why a lot of people attack me, I think, because, you know, I have a lot of anti-Zionist Jews in my community, and I'm, you know, proud to stand by them. And the point that I want to make here is this. You might disagree with my assessment on or the evolution of Hamas's tactics, for example, switching from military targets exclusively to civilian targets. I oppose that.
I think killing civilians on their
Evolution. Oh, he's talking about like the very first suicide bombings, I think. But that didn't last very long, did it? That was a pretty brif phase in their overall history.
any circumstances is wrong, whether it's Israelis or Hamas doing it.
The reason why I say Israel's 1,000 times worse than Hamas.
No, I think the principle is the same. I think the principle is the same. I don't think I'm not a utilitarian, clearly, in the same way that you are, Hasan. I don't think that just because you kill
do you disagree that Israel has killed 1,000 times more civilians than Hamas has?
I don't know what this is.
No, they haven't. You fucking idiot! Can you not do maths? Why are you saying this like it's a? He's not even saying it like it's hyperbole. There. Do you agree that they've killed 1,000 times more? No. But no, you fucking retard. Israel has not murdered 1.3 million civilians. No, they haven't. What the fuck? That 70,000 toll from the health ministry, which doesn't seem to be increasing all that much, even now that they have had lots of time to to look under the rubble and to take family reports and to count the people who have died from famine conditions and everything else. Even after all that, about 75,000-ish, I think, is where the health ministry is standing right now. Even that number doesn't distinguish between militants and civilians. There are militants in those numbers. We don't know how many militants are in those numbers. The only thing that we do know is that the number is the number of 100% confirmed is definitely increasing because Hamas and Islamic Jihad keep on releasing lists of their dead commanders now, an alarming number of whom were also double role-playing as journalists and fucking health workers and shit. But anyway, that's besides the point. No, they have not killed 1,000 times as many as Hamas, and that's only if you count October 7th. That's not to mention the amount of people over the years who died from Hamas's rocket fire and from the Intifada. The Intifada killed 1,000 Israelis as well, the second one.
But I would accept completely that Israel has killed lots of civilians and it's absolutely heinous. Unlike you, I would draw a moral equivalence.
Would you agree there's 1,000 times more? Like what? Why? Why are you doing this? What the fuck?
Those acts, but you seem to be willing to more because you're attached to a sort of anti-colonial ideology.
70,000 with the overwhelming
you are willing to basically dismiss one and favour the other, and I'm not. That's the difference between us.
I don't think you're.
He still thinks that the 70% women and children thing is true. Huh. Okay.
Not favoring either party. I think that there is a level.
I think murder of civilian is wrong. Full stop. I don't see it as an anti-colonial struggle. I think it's wrong. Full stop. I don't think it gets them anywhere.
Country. There's a level of understandable sympathy demonstrated by people in Western society, especially towards a country that has been a cooperative ally for a very long time. I totally understand that. It's a byproduct of our social.
Hamas killed 800 civilians on October 7th. 10 times that is just 80K. Actually, 10 times that is 8,000, you fucking idiot. The real death toll is obviously much bigger than that in Gaza. Hasan is plainly correct here, LeMayo. So you just did poor calculation, and then you said that... And then you said that it's true that the death toll is actually anything approximating 1.3 million. Are you fucking serious? And you're the one laughing? What's wrong with you? What a wretch. It's also not even to mention, like, why would you ever make this comparison? Why? Why would you make this comparison? Do you think Hasan would say that Hamas is worse than Ted Bundy? Or like Hamas is worse than fucking Epstein? As far as we know, Epstein didn't murder anyone, did he? He raped a lot of people, but like... As far as the utilitarian, would I vote for Epstein 1,000 times over Hamas because Hamas killed more people? Is that what you would say? Would Hasan ever commit to that position? Of course he fucking wouldn't, because he doesn't support Hamas based on a utilitarian calculation of how much fucking suffering they've caused. He supports them ideologically because he ideologically thinks Israel shouldn't exist and that Hamas are actually, just a bunch of Muslims who are just happen to be concerned about human rights. and nothing to do with fundamentalism. You know, they just say that sometimes for rhetoric, I guess. I didn't choose to make this about fucking maths. Fuck off.
We look to a country, and you've mentioned it over and over again. You keep saying, well, it's a democratic process, there is a democracy in Israel. And I keep telling you that it's an apartheid system, so their democratic process is irrelevant.
There are literally Arab-Israeli parties in the Knesset. You didn't get that in apartheid South Africa.
I know. And
so it's not the same,
enough,
is it?
No, there's varying
Deleted the comment. I misheard the numbers and mistyped the zeros. The broader point is still correct. You are a fucking... What broader point? What do you think the actual death toll is? Because it's not much higher than 80,000. Like any of those people who were out there saying that it's actually, as soon as they dig under the rubble, they're going to find like 150,000 or 200 or 300,000 or 600,000. No, it's not much higher than 80,000. No. So where the fuck you're getting, where you're even getting 100 times more is questionable, let alone 1,000 times more, let alone completely ignoring the idea of like, well, what political objective or what conduct was carried out here, or like what broader ideological goal is being served. Because as far as I can tell, at the very least, even if you believe everything about the Hasan thinks about what's happening in Gaza, at least one group benefits somewhat from it, in that Israel will never face an October 7th from that area ever again. Who benefits from October 7th? What did that do to help anyone? Did that help anyone in Gaza? Or is it not actually just made their predicament much fucking worse? Like inconceivably worse.
Agrees. There's varying degrees of brutality here that we're talking about. You're referencing only Israel proper, and I guess the extension now with the settlement project as well. But Israel isn't just Tel Aviv and the Israel that we point to. Israel is a singular sovereign occupant state that dominates the lives of the almost 10 million Palestinians.
Certainly higher than 130K. Yeah, but you're just basing that on predictions that have since never been shown to materialize. You're just making that up. Like, I'm sorry that, like, just because some fucking person attached a Lancet label to some fucking bullshit hypotheticals or some stupid fucking or some like very convoluted like data analysis. But no, actually, where are you still getting the idea that it has to be higher than 130,000? Where?
Or that live there, both in the West Bank and in Gaza. Gaza is a hermetically sealed open-air prison that's being bombed and is being genocided and ethnically cleansed. And the West Bank has been an occupied state, illegally occupied, mind you, militarily, where the citizens don't have any rights whatsoever. They have separate roads, separate license plates. They constantly have to go through this bureaucratic nightmare, this security tyranny that they've created for the Palestinians in their ancestral
Just on British
homeland.
politics, Hassan, because I know I'm running out of time. What was
the
your
separate
message?
road thing in Hebron is quite fucking weird. God. That place was I remember asking fucking Yishai to spend a bit of the day showing it to us, and he was like, oh no, that's just what the Western propagandists do. Like, okay, I see why you don't want us to see that, fucking weirdo.
Speak to the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. Do you want to be let back into Britain?
Yes, I do. I think it's terrifying that the Labour government is creating this environment that instead of leaning in to the democratic wishes of the majority that look at what Israel has done and look at the cooperation of the British government with Israel in horror, understandable horror, and demand an end to it, the British government has very clearly moved in the opposite direction of repression. Instead of addressing these needs, the government is instead telling people that they can't actually protest against this. And there's been silly prescriptions like Palestine Action. I think you and I would probably agree that that was a little bit silly to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization, right? And then also the prosecution of the arrests of pensioners and the elderly for holding up a placard that says Palestine Action. Maybe
I'm trying to warm up to why Hasan got banned from. Why he got his ETA revoked? Does this guy know? Oh God, I hope he knows.
American for this, but I find that to be, ridiculous, right?
Do you think that actually inadvertently the British government, certainly to potentially, I mean, you've got millions and millions of people who watch and listen to you. Do you think that they've magnified your message?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's been a spectacular failure for them, because if I came into the country and did my South by Southwest thing and did the Oxford Union speech and whatnot, I'm sure it would have gone as every other time I've been to the UK. People are excited to see me there. It's fine. I have a lot of fans in the UK as well. But now now there is this major media crisis, this moment where people are looking at what the government is doing and are worried about the implications of it, which I think is a healthy amount of friction. I mean, this is a part of the complex the complex process of democracy, right? As long as we can still fight for it, as long as we can still maintain it, hopefully. And I do want that to take place.
And just finally, just briefly, on American politics, which we haven't really had much time to discuss. We're obviously gearing up towards the midterms. Trump is doing what Trump does. He said the other day that he doesn't really care about any effect that the Iran war has had on American consumer prices, or he's much bothered. He seems to be in a slightly unusual place where he's decided that he's not much bothered about public opinion at this point. But what's your assessment as a very leading sort of figure on the left in American politics about where the Democratic Party is now, and the discussion, the internal discussion about where the Democratic Party should position itself? Where do you think the Dems are at?
There's a divergence between the Democratic Party as a party and the base of support. The base of support, the voters, lifelong Democrats, and even independents, as a matter of fact, have completely moved further and further to the left in this process, where they want fighters. They want real fighters that will try to stop the Trump administration no matter what it takes, including sometimes
Did he give this interview after all of his favorite candidates lost, I wonder?
Physically protesting, right? Certain initiatives.
He's still got Plattner and Al-Sayed, doesn't he? He still has them to bank on.
Ending that Hakeem Jeffries come out and participate in the act of physical protest, even if it's symbolic. Whereas the party itself has taken this interesting stance, this interesting approach, where instead of opposing the administration as aggressively as they could, they've decided to wait it out. This was spelled out by James Carville early on, where they said, James Carville straight up came out, he's a Democratic consultant, worked with the Clintons, and he said, show your belly. Show your belly. It doesn't matter, because the people will recognize how devastating the Trump administration is. There's this attitude where I think some centrist Democrats want to punish the public so that they come to terms with how devastating the Trump administration is, and then there's no other option other than harm reduction voting, which clearly demonstrably failed as a theory in the last election cycle. I find that to be morally repugnant, and I
kind of relevant for earlier.
When I go to the Pride Parade, I expect there to be homosexuals at the Pride Parade.
Yeah.
Not to make any sort of moral equivalency between the two, mind you, okay? Gays good, Israel bad.
Okay.
The fuck are we doing?
I don't know what we're doing. Why would I send this?
Gay rights and gay wrongs. We celebrate both here. Unless it's the Pride Parade in Tel Aviv, in which case it's bad. It's still a Nazi still a Nazi parade at that point. Listen, man.
He's just bigoted against Israelis. He's like, if you don't want to stand for the anti-Semitism thing, or anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, he is a bigot, though. He's like an obsessed fucking bigot. Oh well. What can you do?
Find that to be far too conciliatory to the needs of the growing fascist movement, because I see the danger of MAGA fascism.
I just have to ask you.
I'm not alone in this either.
No,
There's
I'm sure.
A lot of people.
I just have to ask you this. I did notice this week when looking at some of the things that you've been talking about recently. I know that one of your favoured candidates for Nancy Pelosi's congressional seat, she's obviously the former speaker. She's standing down after many years since she was elected in 1986, I think. And the Dems, obviously, it's a plum seat in San Francisco, in California, where you are now. And I think the person that you were supporting failed to progress the other day against two other candidates. Yeah. And I think you used to work for AOC, and you said it's just effing rich liberals who just want Homo-Fascism in this country. That's it. They want gay fascism. They want gay techno-fascism. What did you mean by that? What's gay techno-fascism?
Wasn't necessarily just about San Francisco, though, and it wasn't about Shoykat's race in general. I think it was more so about some of the California liberals that, unlike the rest of the country, are not as we're not as activated, rather. As some of these other places where people are demanding more.
What's gay techno-fascism?
Should hetero men be allowed to say that? Is it normal for hetero men to be using like the word gay in that kind of, especially as a progressive, self-proclaimed?
I'm referencing, of course, is the comfort that they have with like what level of progressive politics that they're open to. It's not a secret that, Peter Thiel, Sam Altman, numerous Silicon Valley tech CEOs are bringing about this new techno-feudalist dystopia that we're currently living under. And they themselves are open-minded or rather libertarian when it comes to certain qualities, like certain civil liberties, obviously LGBTQ liberties, and maybe abortion protections. But everything else outside of that, whether it be immigrants' rights or anti-black racism, Islamophobia, they will throw that by the wayside. These are not issues that they necessarily care about. And what I'm referencing there is a pink-washed version of the type of fascism that some wealthy liberals are comfortable with.
Although again, we
the
know
type of fascist. This is like made up, right? This is your fucking made up archetype of someone who just wants more gays and more women to be drone pilots striking the Middle East and killing all the babies. Like this is like a complete fucking bullshit stereotype of a person, of an archetype that doesn't actually exist, right? Like this is just like what they imagine Hillary Clinton voters are like.
would have happened to gays under fascist regimes, don't we, Hasan?
Yes, no, I think it's very dangerous. I think, well, it's the same principle behind like Jewish cooperators with the Trump administration as well.
Hey.
This is a real warning for every marginalized group that thinks that tokens don't get spent at the end of the day. These guys are inevitably going to oppose all of these groups when there's a better opportune time. So I think we have to fight back with intersectionality and fight back fast and fight back hard.
Is it easy to have intersectionality when you're warning about Homo-Fascism?
Yes, of course.
Doesn't sound very intersectional.
Well, if you think that my warnings about liberal cooperation with a fascist movement by the likes of Peter Thiel and Sam Altman is actually homophobic, I guess we can have a conversation around that. I don't
you
think
think
so.
that where is this happening? Is this like fucking Buttigieg or some shit? Like I don't know who he thinks he's even referring to here. But because to him, like a liberal fascist is just like a center left person. It's like a Hillary Clinton type. Like that's probably all he's referring to.
Oh, and neither does my audience. My entire community is queer.
When do we think the ban will be lifted?
My
if
entire
ever?
community
When
is
can we actually
queer.
expect to see you in the UK?
After this conversation, probably not anytime soon. But
No, I think this will help your case.
We'll see. I mean, I'm probably going to work with some immigration attorneys to try to identify exactly what took place, because at the end of the day, there are plenty of people who oppose my worldview, think I'm crazy, whatever, right? But I think what we can all unite under is, one, the principle of defending free expression, as long as it doesn't cross certain boundaries that actually do reach into...
Like if you make fun of Chairman Mao. Yeah?
Like fomenting violence and like deliberately trying to cause a riot, like inciting a riot or things
supporting attacks on the British military and celebrating them. Maybe that. I don't know. I can't believe the country that I'm supporting crimes against is not letting me in. I cannot believe the French won't let me into their country. All I did was say it was fucking amazing when you attack their soldiers. Like what?
of that nature. Look, I'm obviously going to be respectful of the countries that I visit and the opinions that I have on that. And it's not something that I am interested in doing anyway. Inciting a riot is ridiculous. But the other thing is that this process of revocation of visas is actually very opaque. And I think that's somewhat of a problem, that the Home Secretary can just like issue these kinds of travel bans without ever really even revealing why they did so, without ever actually saying, here are the...
That's true. I wish they did say. So then you'd actually have to defend the things that you said rather than just guessing, i.e. assuming it's because you criticize Israel. That would be nice of the Home Office to do. They just need that, bro. They just need that one clip. They just need that one clip of him celebrating the Palestine action attacks on the RAF. And then the entire fucking British nation would be like, oh yeah, that guy's a bit of a cunt, isn't he? What the fuck? Let me see.
reasons why we oppose this person coming into the country. And I think that's been one of the most confusing elements of this entire ordeal. I was actually shocked because, I was first and foremost shocked because I think that perhaps falsely, I assumed that the British government has always maintained this attitude that they would defend free expression and freedom of speech, unconditionally. But then also beyond that, I was shocked at how not transparent this process was.
Hasan Piker, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in London soon. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Where is Sinwar talking about October 7th? Oh, it's actually already in the clip that I had up. Wow, nice one, idiot. Okay, I've got it. It's actually here. I just forgot the setting. It's here, right? Oh no, it's not. Whatever. But this is one of them.
عواصم دول الشادي هؤلاء الشبان والفتيات الذين خرجوا
He would talk about youths a lot, like young boys and girls fighting.
بالسكاكين يطعنون أو خرجوا بالسيارات يدهسون ويصدمون لو كان وراهم قيادة تحميهم وترعاهم وتؤيدهم وتدعمهم بالمال والسلاح كما هو الحال
Al Jazeera on
قضيتنا غير
May 26, 2021. That's Alexa TV. Fuck, bro. Whatever. Was this it? Is this it? Ah. This is it, I think. No, it's not. It's a different one. Oh, this is the full address, I think. Huh. Oh, this is it. This is it, isn't it?
وأنا إن أردتم المزيد من الوقت دولتكم مرهون بتنفيذكم لمخططاتكم في المسجد الأقصى وفي القدس. سيناريو موجود ومعروف وستنفجر الضفة الغربية بكل ما أوتيت من قوة. سيهاجم شعبنا وسينتفض أهلنا في الداخل المحتل. مليون متظاهر أو أكثر سينزلون إلى الشوارع يغلقون الطرق. وأنا سيجد كل واحد منهم إما سكينا يطعن به أو سيارة يدهس بها أو زجاجة حارقة يشعل بها قلوبكم أو جالون بنزين يحرق بها هذه الغابات المترامية. وستنطلق جماهير شعبنا وأمتنا عبر الحدود تتدفق كالسيول الجارفة.
Like a flood. Over Al-Aqsa. 2021.
تنطلق والمقاومة.
The region? Okay, yeah, as well. Okay, that's not just Palestine, okay.
بدوا يضحكوا على إنه 100 كيلو.
Like, it's quite clear what he's talking about there. He's talking about what he expects to happen on October 7th. Al-Aqsa flood over Al-Aqsa. It's pretty obvious. So, what can you do? What are you going to say? I don't know why anyone is still like scratching their head over, oh, how do you know what they were really planning? Was he saying this in Gaza on 10/7? No, this is him in 2021 discussing what will happen if, how there will be a flood if Israel fucks with Al-Aqsa, right? It's pretty on the nose. I don't know. And all these fucking intellectuals, these like fucking upper middle class intellectuals, like, how do we really know why they were planning on October 7th? Maybe they were just doing it to get a prisoner exchange. Okay, son. That's where the education goes. That's what you pay for. Subscribe, you fucking assholes. I mean, sorry.